Althea.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the May 26, 2021 Gates County Board of Commissioners special meeting. I am Dr. Althea Riddick, the 2021 Chair of the Board, and I'm joined by Vice Chair Jack Owens, Commissioner Linda Hoffler, Commissioner Jonathan Jones, County Manager Tim Wilson, and Penny Roll, Temporary Clerk to the Board. I remind the viewing audience that all public meetings are live streamed and archived for viewing, and you can also watch on our YouTube channel. The links are on the website. Additionally, on the board-approved minutes are the official minutes of all meetings. At this time, I would like to ask Commissioner Linda Hoffler to lead us in prayer and be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by the Commissioners.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings you have bestowed on this county, the state, this nation, and each of us individually. Help us live lives that would be pleasing in your sight and remember to follow your traits of being merciful and gracious and to others and to love our neighbors. As we go through this process, help us always think of what is good for the county, and the best use of our funds, and help us when agree to disagree sometimes, but do it with civility. All these things we ask in thy name and for thy sake. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a special meeting to go over the budget. This is a budget work session. It's going to be presided over by our county manager, and I turn it over to him and his team to go into the budget. I see Commissioner Freeman is joining us, and so we have a full board this afternoon. Welcome, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, ma'am.
And before I forget it, while the county manager is getting ready for his presentation, I'd just like to wish Commissioner Hoffler a belated happy birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. She was telling me all about her birthday yesterday, so that was good news. You're still here.
Hopefully we'll be here for a lot longer.
So happy birthday. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you recall, at the last meeting, I presented to you the recommended budget for fiscal year '22. This is your first scheduled work session on that budget upon receiving it. We do not have any structured or strict rules about how you wish to, the commissioners wish to discuss this budget or engage staff in discussion. I am here. I know that you all realize I have a limited amount of knowledge in the budget, but I've tried to come up to speed since I've been here. Finance Director Kimberly Outlaw, she is with us this evening, and I'm sure will be a tremendous help in any questions the commissioners may have. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, and the members of the board for you to discuss any points or elements of the budget that you may have questions, comments, or any proposed changes at this time.
Okay. We do have a handout. Something got cut off, I think the revenues, and so we have that. When they punched the holes in it, we didn't have the full copy of that. So we do have that at our desk. If you, when we get to that, you can reference that instead of what you have in your budget manuals or budget books. Kim, Ms. Outland, do you want to talk about some of the highlights before we get to questions that the commissioners may have?
I just wanted to, again, the handout that you have in front of you, there was a fund that was left off. It was in your budget packet in section H under Register of Deeds. It was the Automation and Preservation Fund, Fund 15. The only difference that you will see now with that fund in the overall budget is that it increased the county total budget by $12,700. It did not have any effect on the general fund, or this was not something that we had to find additional money for. It just got cut off when we were printing, so it didn't get in that total.
Really didn't change anything.
It didn't change anything, it just increased the overall county budget by 12,700.
And this is correct, the figure on.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other updates you want to highlight, or we can start with the question?
We can start with questions.
Okay, who wants to start with the question? Commissioners?
I believe there was something in there for a raise for the commissioners. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a cost of living adjustment at 4% recommended for all county employees.
And it would be possible for us to forego that increase if we chose to? Or does it have to be across the board?
That I'm not sure of. Tim, do you?
I don't have a positive answer on that, but I think if you wanted to make that adjustment, that would be within your prerogative to do so.
Could we make that a motion to put it in form of a motion?
Probably at this point in terms of just the work sessions, if it's a consensus of the board at this point, then yes, I think that would probably suffice. Since it's a work session, and anything that's a consensus, staff will be glad to make those changes to the document.
Well, I open that for discussion.
Commissioner, I had the same idea of that, but
Yeah, I would be in favor of us not receiving that.
me too.
Okay.
Is there a consensus of the board, Commissioner, that we forego the raise for the commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
It's not that we don't deserve it, it's just we don't,
And it's,
According to, we might change our mind after this meeting tonight.
we won't change our mind.
so Madam Chair, that's not a vote, that's just a consensus.
Consensus? Mhm. I just want to make sure we had a consensus.
Yeah, and just so I'll explain, a motion is more of a formal action, and what we will do, anything that is consensus, we will modify the document, and then at the time that you are ready to take action, the actual adoption of the budget ordinance, those items that were by consensus will be included, those changes will be included in the budget ordinance, at which time, after you have your public hearing, you will formally vote, motion, and adopt.
Right. But there is still, at the time, just for the sake of saying it, when we go to adopt the budget, any of these line items could come up for questioning before we vote on the budget,
Correct.
right
And-
until that minute.
Any of those line items could come up. There are a handful of things that, that you cannot change, such as increasing a fee or a tax rate
Right,
or
yeah.
something that had not
Sure.
previously been advertised. But like an example of what you just did here, yes, that could come back up at discussion as part of a motion, an amended motion. So yes, that would be back on the table again for consideration.
I don't anticipate any.
So Commissioner Owens, you have another, since you
No,
started us off.
I'm good right there. I'll wait to hear from my
Okay.
other commissioners.
Commissioner Freeman?
Well, certainly, a lot of work was done on the budget, and I think we talked about that at our last commissioners meeting. Did a good job, and glad to see a balanced budget. Glad to see all the work that obviously everyone did, but particularly our finance officer. It's the second go-round we've had as far as budget last year and this year, and what a good job everyone has done to bring it into line and hang up on the phone. That's why I was a little bit late. One of the officers, sergeant's calling right there. Can't talk to him. However, I did question and still question the $60,000 study for raises for employees. So I certainly have a question about that, and I'd like to hear from our fellow commissioners concerning that same matter.
What tab is that under?
What chapter?
Governing body, the last one, contingency funds.
Is that D?
114110-991 on the handout we got tonight.
That's correct. It is under governing body as a contingency fund. And during my presentation, I did note that there were 2 studies that I was recommending be conducted next fiscal year. One was regarded to staff, and it was to examine 3 things. One was the salary and compensation. The second item would be to take a look at the job descriptions in terms of duties and responsibilities. And the third element that I think is vitally important and may not have been included in some previous studies would be a staffing and organizational study as well. And that component would take a look at the services that are being provided by Gates County as a local government to determine what would be recommended staffing levels and how that staffing could be organized so that those services could be most efficiently and effectively delivered. And also, along with that, I was recommending a study concerning the technology that's currently being utilized by the county. I've noticed that right now, many of the departments are still operating independently of each other. I would like to see the county move forward to centralizing some of the drives as shared information drives so that all information in the shared drive is accessible and can be used by all the departments that were operating off of the same software systems and platforms, and also using things that just help us very much in our daily work, such as the Outlook program. We all have it, but it's not linked together to where it's really, we're making full use of that program. So I thought it was, and I do believe that the technology, since it is such a powerful tool, that I thought it was important to conduct that study at the same time that we look at the staffing needs, because I think the better tools, especially with technology, that we can provide the employees, that has a direct bearing on the number of staff and staffing levels that we may need.
I would certainly be in favor of looking at that technology, separating some of those things and organizational, because you taking over would certainly want to see that and know that, and we may be looking at it at a different light. What I was seeing a lot, or afraid that I was seeing, is that a few years ago we did a salary study, and I want to say that the county paid approximately $35,000 for that study. Not that it was a bad study, but once we see those figures, certainly all of our staff members see them, and then subsequently, can we meet monetarily what is suggested for us by something we paid for to look at a salary? And the answer was, no, we can't. And we couldn't for a while. So that's my big question about that as far as a salary study. Organizational and technology, have no problem with. Salary study, I have a problem with. So, but any other commissioners, maybe I'm just.
Is there, for the salary study, is it necessary that there be two components to that study, the salary and the organization?
I outlined 3 different components. You could modify that to any singular or any combination of those, but I do see them interrelated. But yes, they could be broken down.
When we did the salaries, Thank you. When we did salary study a few years ago, but we did put people in different steps that were, I mean, we had the steps, didn't we place them?
Steps and grades.
Steps and grades and made those where they should be. No, we did not follow through all years because we did not have the money. But after the first one, didn't we change some people's steps and,
We did.
and so they ended up with more salary to make it that they were competitive with the neighboring counties in this region. So it wasn't that, it was not the first, everybody got where they were in the competitive range of the other counties.
And I'm not, certainly not opposed to seeing that, but once we do that study and offer that as advice and also to be seen by all our employees, and then we don't meet it, are we not really looking bad as a governing board not to give the folks the money that our salary says they need, our salary study says they should get?
I would look at it in terms of implementing it. First, we'd have to see what the results were and what the cost would be to bring all of the positions, what we would consider, competitive. Because, if you have a good, experienced employee, you want to make sure that they do have a competitive wage to retain that employee, because there's cost and disruptions that are involved when an employee leaves for others. Sometimes I've seen these studies, they do come back, and it's not a small price tag to bring it in. I don't want anybody to be under the misunderstanding that once a study comes in, that I would expect that to be fully implemented in, say, the next fiscal year. But, something like that can be phased in over a period of time to help absorb that cost. But part of that would be, first examining what the dollar value would be to try to implement that study. But no, I'm not, and I don't want it to be misunderstood that I would be advocating, regardless of cost, that be implemented in the following fiscal year. As with many things, it may have, been a number of years that, if salaries fell behind and that it's just not practical or affordable for us to try to bring them all back to where we would like to see them, in a very quick part of time. But I think the employees would, appreciate to see, a commitment and dedication to take positive steps towards that.
And understandable, excuse me, Jack, but, and understandable, I certainly see that. What I felt from hearing very definitely is that we did not meet what we called for from the salary study. Therefore, the morale of the county began to question, why do we have pay $35,000 for a salary study and we're not going to pay what the salary study said? We couldn't, monetarily wise. So that puts us, it's kind of chasing the tail a little bit. So,
If I may,
yes, sure. But,
I'm totally against spending $60,000 on this. For the rest of you might, but I think it's a waste of our money right now. We got a new county manager that, as you come in, Tim, and meet all the department heads and meet the employees and sit down with the department heads and see exactly what their staff does. That's an organizational study. They're the ones that can tell you, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, what is going on. I agree with Commissioner Freeman that we do a salary study and it comes back and we're paying every single employee not enough money, then we're going to have a group of disgruntled employees on our hands because we don't have a big pot of money right now. As our debt starts to retire next fiscal year, we start getting rid of some of our debt, then we can have this conversation, in my opinion. But $60,000 is a lot, in my opinion, the way things are right now. The technology study, there's a lot of money in the budget for upgrading PC equipment, Kim. I don't know the exact amount, but there's a lot of new computers, PCs being purchased. You know that number off the top of your head?
It was
How many new PCs for county employees?
I was looking at Warren. Was it 21?
It was a lot.
Give me 1 second, I can pull that up. Okay, the total that, when I said 46, that doesn't just include, the hardware, that included,
Some programs or something.
the
wasn't it?
hardware for purchasing the, different PCs. There were a couple of laptops, that was 24,000. And then the other part of that were all of our software costs for the county.
Gotcha.
Various things like the antivirus.
Like the programs to run it and stuff. is what you're-
Correct, correct.
right.
So the
And-
total came to be around 46 for both of those components.
So we're already looking at spending 46 on new computer stuff, and I just don't think, I think it's not a good use of our citizens' money to spend this $60,000. This budget also has room in it for an extra position for finance. All salaries of county employees are public info. So I think that we could, between the county manager and new finance position, if we do agree to that, could spend a day or two of their time calling counties like size of ours and get that information and save our citizens money, in my opinion.
Commissioner Owens, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment, and I've got a follow-up comment on the technology, too. That from a positive, so there's downsides, negatives, positives. So the positives for the study would be showing our employees that we're concerned about employee retention. We want our employees to be with us from now to their retirement, So, I mean, that is a positive. If we were to go forward with it, I mean, it would have to have a disclaimer saying, this is a study, and we may not be able to fund this for X number of, period of time, or put a disclaimer out there that whatever it is, results were that we would probably do it in phases. I think you mentioned that, Tim. So, but to me, the positive from it would be showing the employees that we were trying to do something to take care of employee retention and make sure we had the structure right. Structure could possibly move around some things to make us more efficient. And that component might be something hard for us to see, even for our employees to see. An outside look at that could give us, say, somebody comes in your house and says, why don't you move this over here? And that might be a positive that could come from it. It is a lot of money, and we compare it to a $35,000 figure a few years ago. I think it's about 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. On the technology thing, I'm excited about everybody being on a program to where they can interface and talk and go back and forth. These dollar amounts that you're talking about on computers, are those dollars spent? Are we talking about $20 that have already been spent?
Just on we're talking about just the
On the,
ITs?
on the computers and laptops.
The software cost that I was referring to, like our antivirus, we need our antivirus. So
Don't
the
want to be hacked.
so
But
the
what
software.
I'm interested, I think I can help you answer the question. What I'm concerned about is, if we're talking about a technology study, before we purchase any more, we need to hold off on that to find out what the recommendation is on the software technology study. And I was just wondering if the numbers that you were quoting to Jonathan were spent dollars or proposed dollars.
I found that form, it's under D, the combined IT budget totals.
Would
But
you
Jonathan,
like,
you said we've already been buying some computers. That's why I phrased my
my question like it did.
We have Warren. Would you like Warren to come up and
Yeah.
speak? Well, you come up and speak. I don't want to misspeak for you.
How's everybody? And you will repeat that question, please?
Yeah, Warren, I'm just asking, simply asking the question, in our budget for this upcoming year, we have a technology study in there, which I'm excited about. I just want to make sure that we're not sitting there with a checkbook, writing a check for computers before the study's completed.
Okay, so everything that we,
Have we recently bought new laptops?
no, everything that we have and proposed for this budget is new items.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
So so let me say this, as far as what's proposed, it's approved in the budget, that's great for the new computers and all that, but we're not gonna purchase any, I hope, until that outside party comes in and does a technology study and says, all of your computers are trash, okay? Or these 28 computers over here, what I'm proposing, you've got good computers, but they're not perfect for what we're proposing, and they won't work together. I just want to make sure that we don't buy something before the study is completed and then be told what we just bought was trash.
Well, I guess my comment to that would be that what we have proposed now is items that are towards the end of their favorable life. So at this point, what we have proposed is items that we, one way or another, need to replace.
Okay.
We've,
Could you put an urgency on that? 90 days, 6 months?
I would say 6 months.
6 months? Okay.
And Warren, if I could just make a comment. I think, I understand what you're saying, that, I mean, when we're looking at the technology, we're looking at hardware, we're looking at software, and we're looking at how those individual departments and softwares, that they're compatible, how they're linked together. So, you know, I'm looking, tell me if I'm off base, but when I've looked at these before, it really, you know, hardware does play a role in it, but I see probably the more critical role in this type of study is making sure that we're all using the same software, so that the software is compatible from department to department, and how to get those departments from being silos and organizing them in a network. And so the networking and the software are an issue, and then the hardware is the issue. And it may not necessarily mean if you have a computer or a printer or a monitor that's a piece of hardware, if that needs to be replaced, that would have perhaps a detrimental effect, because I would anticipate the study would probably deal much more with software issues and the developing of networks. Would that be a fair statement?
I would think so. I think, you know, we would need hardware one way or another as the
Yes.
foundation for the software.
Okay.
Probably going forward, as we kind of take off to a new culture, some of our devices, the decision might have been made, okay, we can't replace but so many devices. So as the budgets came into the next budget, the critical devices were said, let's replace those, and then the what we thought we could get by to the next budget year, we put out to the next budget year. At this point, I think we've just got to get back to a clean slate, kind of. So at this point, what we have here as far as hardware, the majority of that is just devices we just need to replace, regardless of the salary study study as far as the software goes.
Yes.
That will be extra cost that we don't have here budgeted. This is just basically the need for the hardware, and then our yearly services such as email, antivirus, firewall licenses and whatnot.
Yes, things that we would, typically need regardless of type of
Right.
software or how they were linked in terms of a network.
Okay, thank everyone for their comment. I have a final comment, and we'll move on if everybody doesn't have anything else to say. On this subject about operational efficiency, because that's what it is. I've heard all the commissioners about the cost of a salary study. The salary study that was done about 4 or 5 years ago was never efficiently or effectively implemented. There was no plan to bring anybody up to anything, if I'm not mistaken. That's on the commissioners. When you do a salary study, it is not realistic to think that everybody's going to get a raise the next year or in that fiscal year. It has to be an implementation plan that's set out to bring it in phases. Many of us in this room have had experiences with salary studies and operational efficiency. You know my background, you know where I come from, and you know that they do salary studies to make sure that it's equitable and it's fair, and that sitting down with a person, asking them what they do is not a salary study. Asking another company or another state or another county is not a salary study because they're not apples and apples. You do some of that when you have a company to do that. That's part of it. But to think that you're going to phase everybody in one fiscal year, that's not going to happen. And with Gates County as behind as it is, just being honest, we're not going to get to operation efficiency by doing it in-house. And the $60,000, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Wilson, that's not just for the salary study or the technology study. It's called a contingency plan, where you have a contingency in the budget, whereas if anything happens, who knows what that may happen. If we need money for anything, we don't go back in that budget and start reallocating funds. That busts your budget wide open when you do that. So if you had a balanced budget in the beginning and then something happened, then you have to go find, no such thing as found money. You have to go allocate money. What you're doing is going back in your budget that was balanced, and now it's not balanced anymore. You have to rob Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's going to want his money back sooner or later. That's how that works. So we're not voting on a balanced budget tonight. This is a budget work session. Everyone is having their input. My input is operational efficiency for Gates County is paramount. You cannot separate the technology from staffing, because you may find that technology can help you work smarter instead of harder. And the current staff may not know that because they don't have that history of doing that. We know that technology in Gates County is not where it's supposed to be. We just had a study where the customer service department wants to improve, enhance our software. Most departments need that, and they need the professional development training to get that. So as we work on this budget for the next, until June 16th, and have a public hearing, we'll have much to think about. But if you want to move Gates County forward, we're going to have to not do what we've always done and go inward. And the citizens understand that, I think, when they see how that would help. But it's unrealistic to think that any company could phase in a salary study at one time unless it's Fortune 500. You don't do that. You phase it in. You have a plan that each fiscal year, this is what we're going to do. It's called a planned budget. It's not just apples. It's not just a mathematical exercise. It's called a planned budget. So that's my input. I thank everybody for their comments. We got a lot to think about as commissioners, and I'm quite sure that the phone and the emails are going to start ringing. People are going to start sending things. But think about operational efficiency. And that $60,000 is not just for technology or salary study. It's a contingency line item that we didn't have in the budget, that will not break the budget if something happens that we need funding for something else. Are there any other questions? I know we have more questions.
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay.
As Commissioner Hopper alluded to in her prayer, we can all agree to disagree at some point. But I just want to clarify, you mentioned salary study, Fortune 500s. Theirs aren't public info. We're a municipality, so if we do a salary study, our employees are going to know it's public info. If my work does one, I'm not going to know what they found out. I'll find out if I do. But back to your comment toward operational efficiency. Luckily, I wasn't a commissioner 4 or 5 years ago, or I would have been offended about them not doing anything with Linda and Jack and Ray, but I will stand by my comments that we have a brand-new county manager in the county that's just getting his feet wet in our county and meeting our citizens and our department heads, and hopefully has met all the county employees. I don't know if it was Linda or Jack, y'all can elaborate. When the MAP study was done 2 county managers ago, there was some organizational or operational efficiency changes made by the county manager where there was some restructuring. Was there a study done for that, or was that just the county manager seeing the efficiency or inefficiency, Linda?
Excuse me, we've had that discussion, Commissioner Jones. What happened 5 or 2, we've had 13 county managers in 16 years. So what happened back then may have anecdotal importance, but going forward, what someone did or did not do, it's anecdotal. We should know that. I appreciate you bringing that up. I think everybody around this table, except for Tim, probably know about it because I've heard about it, and I'm the latest one that comes on this board. So we can have those discussions again, but to bring up what someone did not do, whether it was a commissioner or a county manager, is not on the table as far as going forward with what we're putting on the table now. So we know that your opinion, your idea is important, just like everyone else. Everyone has had a chance to speak, and not to belabor the point, but we heard you. It's important. I appreciate your comment, but just to talk about it is not going to change the budget presentation that we have now. That can be done on June 16th. Come back again after the public hearing when we have to vote. But I think that the citizens and the staff know that any study we do is going to be transparent. You will know what's in there, and the plan has to be voted on when we implement it and approved by the majority of the board. Am I correct? As we go forward. So that to continue to have the discussion right now, I think I got enough notes to think about everybody's input and everybody else's input. So I would like to thank everybody for their comments, bring them back to the next session, but I don't think adding anything to anybody's comment as a rebuttal, which is very important, but it's not going to change what we're doing right now as far as we're not voting on the budget. We're discussing, asking questions, getting answers, and I think we've done that. Next question.
Then I'll go next, Madam Chair,
Okay.
since you didn't want to elaborate on that. And this is not going to be our only budget workshop, is that correct? Because you said that we'd come back on June 16th after the public
We
hearing.
have not discussed another budget work session. After this work session, if the commissioners vote on another work session, we will have another work session. Is that how it works, County Manager?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah,
County
so-
Manager?
Yeah, it's going to be the pleasure of the board, how much progress you feel that you're making, but right now, staff is anticipating the advertisement for the public hearing on the budget on
June 16th.
On the 16th. You can schedule additional work sessions between now and that date if you wish. Staff just needs a minimum of 2-day notice. So
We can get 2 days
properly
for a special
public notice
session.
that. So
and-
that's your discretion.
Gotcha.
Now,
And let me just say something. When I make a remark, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. I have said what I needed to say. So I said what I needed to say. Let's move on to your next question on a different subject. If at the end of this meeting, we want to have another special session, all I need is 48-hour notice to do that for another budget work session, if we're not finishing this session.
My next question then, Madam Chair, governing body 1141100170, members per diem and travel, $1,000 requested by department. My opinion is that we withdraw that from the budget as well as the salary decrease that Commissioner Freeman brought up earlier. We are part-time employees, if you say that, of the county. We have one meeting a month. I know we get emails and phone calls, but the little bit of money that I get from doing this, if I do have to travel for something, I'm okay with not spending taxpayer money, I can spend my own money. That's my opinion in that.
Are you talking about the, did you say 1111, 411, 10, 170?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if any of us, I don't get travel, and none of us have. But it-
Ms.
but the-
Ms.
but-
Outland, have we charged, is that,
I think in the past, it's been budgeted in there. The last few budgets, I believe it's been taken back out. So I just put it in there because in the past, when we were doing the proposed budget, we put something in there, so it was at the board's discretion whether or not you wanted to keep that in the budget or not.
And I think probably where some of it was paid, if I remember correctly, it was our statewide county commissioner meeting. Last one was in New Bern,
Right.
and it was overnight stay. And so I don't think we paid for that individually. I know I paid for my room, but I didn't, there was also a joining fee. And I think probably the county manager then, or the finance officer then paid for that. We didn't know what it was. But probably came out of that fund.
New commissioner, first-year commissioner orientation, is
Yeah,
pretty
the
much what it
ethics
was.
training. There used to be, you had to go to New Bern or Greenville or somewhere to do that.
The only thing I could think of, as far as leaving it in there, would be if we started doing something, economic development, and say the board met, and they said, let's send Ray Freeman to South Carolina to talk to Caterpillar about coming to Gates County. I mean, just an example. But that would be, that would be, the only reason. I know we're trying to get away from doing budget amendments and taking money from here
yes, we are.
to fund this or that or whatever. The likelihood that we spend the money is not very likely. So it is, we already have a balanced budget, and we're trying to improve on it some maybe.
Ms. Outland?
It looks like the last time there was anything paid out of that particular line was in fiscal year
2019?
2019.
Before COVID.
Right, and it looks like it was $665 total, so it's still, just looking through the past years, it was not a lot that came out of that particular line.
It's actually possible that the $660 was taken from Peter to pay Paul. Might not have even been commissioner related. So I'm not, either way, I'm,
And you never know what might come up. Who knows? Talking about this governing body, in this, there is some numbers down here, Kim. You have FY '21, requests by departments, and then the FY '22. But in that first column, you have numbers, and one of them says FY '21 did not include Ray, and I'm sure that's with health insurance.
Yes,
Not that we're trying to.
in the fiscal year
Rachel.
21 budget, all of the hospitalization, the health insurance, life insurance, and dental was budgeted for Commissioner Freeman in the sheriff's department, but because he's being paid out of two separate funds, there's a portion of that is charged to the hospitalization line. So that's why you see a little bit of a jump from 21 to 22. It's so that we didn't have to do a budget amendment for that.
So is it, in the new budget, it's coming out of? the
It's coming out of both departments proportionally for what's paid.
And because I know the rest of us are on state retirement or work facilities. Okay. Justin, I want to clear up, Ray, make sure. that
I knew I was doing it for free.
I didn't think it was a stepchild.
Next question?
Madam Chair, if I could just,
Yes, ma'am.
before we move off this slide item, the 1,000, is it consensus of the board to keep that 1,000 for travel per diem in that line item at this time?
I would be in favor of leaving it,
Leaving it?
yeah.
Okay.
Who has the next question or comment?
It's in there somewhere.
We got a good budget.
Are we just in governing body, or are we talking about the whole book?
The whole book.
Okay.
I mean, we've moved away from that, so what's your next question?
Social services,
Okay.
Sean? One of the requests is for plexiglass shields for desks. It's one of the line items. Under office supplies and equipment, does the county not have any extras? I know that came up before your time, and I saw that last night. I didn't know if there were some stored to just, save a few bucks.
Do we have any leftover from the pandemic that we were installing all of those plexiglasses? Do we have some in storage? Or no one knows, Kim? Ms. Otwin?
I was not aware that there were extras ordered when we ordered, it was on request, as requested during that time.
Okay.
I just remember Billy coming up before, and I saw the plexiglass stuff. So I forgot to ask you today, sorry,
Well,
Sean.
we charge the county manager to look into that, to see if we have any extra that we've ordered and we're not aware.
Mr. Mann?
Shall I continue, Madam Chair? All right. Letter W, and this is going to be in relation, or it's from the rescue squad, but I see our 911 supervisor director is in the room. I'd like to ask her a question, if I may. If you look at letter W in your book and scroll down to the last bullet point in W,
Where it says North Carolina statewide communication upgrade.
that caught my eye, Linda. If that's something that we need to start planning for now. And I know it came from Stormy, and maybe Amanda can elaborate. Madam Chair, if I may. NC statewide communications upgrade that is set for January 2025 will affect countywide communications in all emergency services divisions, EM, Sheriff's Office, Fire, and EMS, greatly affecting response and interoperability. Billy's talked to us about some changes. I think he mentioned it last year. They'll need to start putting some money away because there was going to be something coming down the road. Can we get Amanda to elaborate?
Ms. Amanda, can you come up to the podium, please?
Thank you, Amanda.
She was sincere.
As far as I know, it is being put out statewide, just that the radios will be going to Viper. I'm not quite for sure what exactly EMS is going to need. I know on my side, it's gonna be some changes in the radios. I know that the Sheriff's Department is actually working on new radios now, so that is going to be a bit of a cost. However, myself, I'm actually trying to work on that right now with the state 911 board as well. So as far as EMS side goes, I mean, they have their handhelds, they have their radios in their trucks. So I'm guessing they're probably gonna need a little bit of help with that.
But is that going to affect and this, I'm just reading, the bullet points that Stormy put out. And then I remembered that Billy had come and said something about we need to start planning now for a few years down the road. Is January 2025 something that we need to be getting ready for county departments?
I would say yes.
I think the answer is yes. I remember the conversation with Mr. Wynn before he left, and there are some grant opportunities as well for those radios. And I think when we hire the person for that position, that's going to be probably the first thing we need to do, because 2025 will be here before we know it. But there are grant opportunities for EMT to help pay for those radios. I remember that conversation. So that's something to put on the county manager's list to to look into as we go forward with the EMT director, to make sure that those grants are researched and applied for in plenty of time so that we don't get caught flat-footed without planning. And if there are not a grant fund, then we need to have a plan in place, Mr. Wilson, to purchase those in stages instead of waiting to 2025. We know it's coming. So we need to have a plan, again, planning, not sit here and wait until 2024 and a half, and then we don't have any radios. So, good catch.
You know, we need to, we actually need to implement a tracking document.
We do.
We need to implement a tracking document for our grants, what's available, what we're going after, and just, you know, look at everything, every tab in here and say, what's the possibility? Let's look for grants for anything under tab S, anything under tab H. I mean, be that driven
I think
toward
I think that is one of the duties of the new person that we hire for the finance office, because they can't keep up, especially with ARP, the American Rescue Plan. That money's coming down. And we saw what a chore it was for the COVID-19 funds that came in and back and forth and had all these amendments. So that person, that's that position, that's one of the main duties that that person will be doing, is making sure that we're on top of what's coming, which is appropriate to apply for, the implementation, and the reporting. We forget about the reporting requirements for grants. You just can't get a grant and do what you want to do with it, and it has to be reporting. That person for the county in the finance office, that's one of those responsibilities that we need. We can't keep up. And with the ARP coming, and it's coming within the next week or two, we're going to have some monies. We need someone that can help the finance. They have two people. And so that's a good segue into that position, to say that's one of the reasons we need that person in Gates County. We don't have anyone. And we're missing out on grants. We're just missing out on grants, and the radios are very important. We're going to have to do it. So thank you, Amanda.
Yes.
And Ms. Ward,
Go
excuse me,
ahead.
Madam Chairman, that system, even though we say in 2025, is it actually going to be instituted prior to that? Is there a system in place?
I would have to ask the state, but I know counties that have already implemented it, and they've started shying away from the VHF channel to begin with, just for safety purposes.
And like the Highway Patrol already does Viper, don't
Mhm, yes, yes. So as of right now, we have both, but I know there are counties that are already
But we,
cutting it off.
for things like this, we also need to plan ahead, because it's like the tax, you know, when we have reval, we put money aside every year, because we don't do reval every year, but so that it won't be such a lump sum on that 8th year. Mrs. Horton does it with the books that she has. She, you know, takes a little each year to go ahead to do it. So, you know, we need to plan each department if you have a major outlay of monies.
And I hadn't thought about what Billy had said before until I saw that and Stormy's bullet point, and that triggered my memory.
And, you know, starts putting aside a few dollars, it will help.
Thank you,
And there's a
Amanda.
lot of money coming down the pipe. But
Don't go too far. Next question or comment? Commissioner Jones?
I'm gonna let somebody else talk for a few minutes, then I'll circle back to me.
Okay. Anyone else?
I thought it was a very realistic budget as I went through it, and there were a couple things, you know, minor things that I would question, but I don't have any major problems.
Commissioner Owens, I see you with the,
I'm
you have,
intently studying down here. I'm good.
okay. Commissioner Jones?
Let's circle back.
Mm-hmm.
Special appropriations. Line item 11,8300 XXX and 693 right under there. We didn't give any funding last year to those. Any particular reason that we decided to this year, Kim?
I put whatever was requested in the budget, so that you guys would see what had come in.
And which one were you talking about,
The
Commissioner?
special appropriations, page 10.
Page 10. I have.
That's the Albemarle Area United Way and the food bank of the Albemarle.
Well, now, the food bank does a lot of the organizations in the county. If you, they do gyms, but they also do upper room, there are a number of civic organizations and church organizations that they provide foods for.
There's been a lot of grants though for that, hasn't there? With COVID, with COVID. I just saw we didn't give them any money last year and was just, gonna question Kim on that.
And that's why one of those accounts has the
Yeah,
XXX.
'cause we
I
hadn't in
couldn't
a while,
find-
have we?
Right. But I did want the board to see what had come in as request for the county, so you can make an informed decision.
I think some of the funding that we've seen over the year and a couple of years is going to go away, even though we have this ARP money coming. It's non-recurring, and I don't know. We can look into it, but I don't know what's coming down the pike as far as for food insecurity. I know it's a big topic in Raleigh about food insecurity and how we're going to help folks that finding that they can't put food on the table. And I know that's a big discussion about food insecurity, especially in rural areas such as Gates County and Pasquotank, Clemens, all the northeast and the western part of the state. So maybe we can take a look at that. I don't have an issue with having that in the budget. The budget is balanced. If they need money for our citizens, as far as helping out with food insecurity, Jim's does a good job. That's the Gates County Emergency Ministries to help out the food bank. And United Way is all, they have different programs that they help out with in disasters and things that way. So we can take a look at that.
But in the narrative, it says the organizations that help the Albemarle Food Bank, Changing Today for a Brighter Tomorrow, Damascus Road Worship Center, gyms, Upper Room Assembly. So that's four that help about feeding America. And certainly we see plenty of families, not only when it's COVID, but when, from day to day, year to year, that they don't know where the next meal's coming from.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Next question or comment? Commissioner Freeman, you're looking at,
Comment-wise, of course, I stick with the same comment. My goodness, it's great to see a balanced budget. It's even better to see no tax increase and not even anyone asking for a tax increase. And we don't want a tax increase. And the other thing is no furloughs. Not getting rid of anybody. So glad to see all that in our budget, and we have seen that before, and we didn't like it then.
Can we go back to the debt service, just to make sure we understand about
Yes.
that?
where's that?
That's at the front of the book. I see it.
That's correct, tab C.
Because we've had tight budgets in recent years because of our debt service.
Ms. Outland, would you like to go over that for us, please?
Currently, we have 3 different loans that are still outstanding. In fiscal year '22, we will pay off one of the school projects. I think it was the high school. There were several, I think, things done to various schools, and it was in one loan. Currently, that is being paid for through some of our sales tax that are in that restricted category that can only be used for school capital outlay. So that debt will be retired in fiscal year '22. The DSS loan, that was the loan we recently put the balloon payment, we've put aside money for the big balloon payment. That loan will be finalized, or we'll be paying it off early in fiscal year '23. That particular loan is paid through taxpayer dollars. That's not, we don't use other sources of revenue for that. And then, of course, we have the Central Middle School project that we'll be paying on until 2038. Right now, we are using the money that comes in through the Article 44 sales tax. We put that money aside and have been using that for the debt payment. Luckily, the amount of revenue that comes in through that article pretty much covers the principal and interest for a fiscal year.
And that school debt, is that the one with BB&T?
The
That we're paying off.
the school debt that we'll be paying off in fiscal year '22 and the DSS loan, both of those are through BB&T. And this Central Middle School project is through Sterling National Bank.
Any other questions about debt service?
Well, we're making progress. I'll be glad to see those off the books.
Next question or comment? Commissioner Jones, do you have any other questions for clarity or?
Not tonight, Madam Chair.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Madam Chair, I was in a meeting today along with Commissioner Jones, and that board that we were meeting on, we serve on the board there. We made a decision, recommendation and decision that is going to affect our budget. We're not at liberty to discuss it here in the open in this panel, but just want to put you on notice that it will affect, and the next time this board meets, we can, it has to be an official meeting for us to make any decision to vote on, but we need, I think, Jonathan, you'll agree, we need to make them aware of that now. And I will also like to say that we are in a time constraint situation. I'm going to stop right there, but it's very important. I mean, if we had the ability to go in closed session tonight, it's personnel and it's related to the budget. And I mean, this occurred at what time? 4 o'clock? After 5. This meeting closed. The decision was made after 5. I think you're right. And it's very time sensitive. I'm not asking for a ruling, but if Tim wanted to elaborate on it, we're in our board, DSS board is in a time constraint for moving forward. I realize budget-wise, we've got till the 16th, but we don't have that luxury. And that's as much as I can share with you. I think Commissioner Jones would say I need to stop right there.
I'm not going to stop you. You say whatever you want. You got equal opportunity to speak. So go ahead.
No, I'm through. I think that's all I can say.
I'm gonna allow the county manager to weigh in on what we've just heard.
My comment as far as the meeting this evening, this is a special meeting of this board. All special meetings have to be noticed, and they have to be specific as to each and every purpose for which may be discussed or conducted during the special meeting. This special meeting was noticed solely for the purposes of a work session. It did not indicate that there would be any closed session, and furthermore, it has been my practice when, even if the sole purpose was for a closed session meeting, that the purpose of that closed session, be it personnel, property acquisition, something of a sensitive nature with an existing business, that would have to be cited also in the notice under the state statutes. Put it in brief, in order to properly notice special meetings and their content, staff needs a minimum of 2 days, and that's that's for notification of the press as well as notification of citizens that have signed up on the sunshine list for the locality, that they are also due those notifications. Your regular meetings, you have a little bit more latitude. Special meetings have to be very specific as to the purpose and content, and you are bound to stick to those purposes.
If I may add to it, thank you for your answer. I was pretty sure I knew that was the answer, but I felt like I needed to be on record having said that. And hearing your response, tomorrow, there's going to be a phone call made regarding your response. That's going may require us, board, to have to have an emergency meeting. That's how strict our time constraint is.
As in, well, 48 hours from now is Friday night, but as in Tuesday morning, if possible.
Tuesday is our deadline.
Tuesday of next, that's
But
June
now, Tuesday is our deadline for
resolution
for
of
notification. yeah.
notification.
So it's likely that tomorrow, Jonathan and I, or somebody else on that board could be calling you saying, we need a Saturday emergency meeting.
And an emergency meeting is also another classification of meeting, and without the code in front of me, and not being the county attorney, I would have to refer to the statute, and I would defer also to the county attorney as to what situation actually constitutes an emergency.
Understood.
So that those time periods can be shortened or waived.
Okay. So I would say at the least, Madam Chair, at the least, we'll be calling Tim in the morning about 9:30 to talk about what we can and what we can't do.
So what I'm hearing is we could call a special meeting for Friday. That'll give 48 hours notice if we decided tonight to have a special meeting.
Well, I think Tim wants to be very clear on what the ramifications are
What's the difference in a special call meeting
and emergency, yeah.
Go ahead.
Once again, not trying to practice law without a license.
Yeah, I don't think he's asking you to. I think he's just clear, I think he's
You
clear
know,
in the conversation.
an emergency truly is, I give an
Emergency.
example that if you had a natural disaster, you had a tornado that came through the center of the county, and certain declarations of emergency, certain, plans need to be put into effect. That is an emergency situation which requires your immediate attention. It's really getting down to issues of public health, safety, and ensuring those. And yes, there are emergency situations to where you can meet immediately, and I would just have to refer to the code and also consult with the county attorney to see if this particular situation would meet any of those qualifications for an emergency meeting.
Two reasons I'm bringing it up. One, because it will affect the budget. And also, I don't know what our plans are for the weekend, but it's sensitive enough that there's going to be conversation. We're not just going to make you aware, so we're going to have dialogue, and we would like to have all 5 parties.
Well, that's right, it's
Okay.
Memorial Weekend.
Yes.
Right.
So, but now, and Madam Chair stated, 48 hours. That means we can't have a meeting till 8 o'clock Friday night from right now, if we decided right now. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding.
Was it 48 hours from when it hits the internet?
Posted, isn't it?
Or full, yeah.
Yeah, from when the notification, from once the notification is posted, because those in receipt have to have 24 or 2-day advance notice.
So if we agree tomorrow morning at 9:30, then 48 hours from tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Okay.
It would be, because if it was a decision that, yes, we would immediately get the notifications to the groups, and that's, in my understanding, that's where your 2-day, it's not necessarily your decision, but it's 2-day notification to the public, and in certain cases, specific groups that also have to be notified, such as the press and the Sunshine Group list.
Question, you said Tuesday's your deadline. What time on Tuesday?
I don't
Very
know.
early.
Very early?
Yeah, I don't know that we were given a specific time.
You probably won't be on your first Zoom by that time.
I make time.
Anyway, so will everybody be getting an email tomorrow, one way or the other,
Okay,
from Tim?
okay.
Jonathan just brought up something. The 48 hours doesn't mean we have to meet right away. So if we get
Right.
the 48-hour thing on the table, Monday would be an option.
I'm
And
looking
I
at
don't
that.
anticipate it being a long meeting. There'll be some discussion and information, but it's not going to be a 3-hour meeting.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
If we do it on Monday, it should be done early, instead of messing up the whole day.
I agree. So we'll work toward that.
Okay.
Because it is a national holiday.
Yes, it is. We
And
can
this
serve
might be
our
a good
county, we can serve our
emergency.
county on that. We can serve our citizens on that day.
Maybe we should take the 4 cents.
I'm looking at the
It's
Anyway.
double pay on
clerk to the
holidays.
board,
Thank you for hearing me.
county manager.
It also brings up another interesting question, but I'll keep that one to myself, that it's on Monday, and I will consult with the attorney that the
Okay.
meeting would be happening on a day that county offices are closed as a recognized holiday.
What, county manager has a lot to do tomorrow morning quickly, so
Yeah.
that we can get it, if we can do it, if it's legally, that we can do that, that'd be noted, so. Anything else on that subject?
No, ma'am, but thank you for hearing me.
No problem, we can hear you. Any other questions about the budget or comments?
Madam Chair, if I could if there's no further comments from the commissioners, if I could just recap, it's the consensus from this meeting to remove the 4% COLA increase from the Board of Commissioners line item. I have here the Board of Commissioners contingency fund, to keep or not keep, the staffing and computer study. That's still subject to further debate, but I just do want to clarify that even if those studies are not supported by the board, I still do recommend a contingency fund in the Board of Commissioners line item nonetheless to be able to act quickly in times of opportunity and in times of emergency, and still keeping your balanced, very clean in budgets. The Board of Commissioner travel budget, the $1,000 that was discussed, it was the consensus to leave that figure in there for the time being. Social services, I will research any extra plexiglass which can be used for purposes in the coming fiscal year. And there was general discussion about the EMS and the dispatching, but no real direction to that on the budget. And I will be consulting with the attorney first thing tomorrow morning about special meeting and closed meetings as we have discussed here this evening.
Okay. All right, hearing no other questions or comments, I'll ask for comments before we close. Commissioner Owens?
Yes, I would like to reiterate what Commissioner Freeman said earlier. It looks like a good, clean budget, no tax increase, not borrowing money from the general fund, and everybody has a job. So I want to thank everybody who worked on it, departments, department heads, and looking forward to it being implemented. I think we've got just minor things to talk about next time we get together.
Okay. Commissioner Freeman?
I would certainly reiterate that, no taxes and no furloughs. I think that just shows how tightly the county manager and our finance officer work to make it happen, and the rest of the staff as well. Certainly that looking at what I oppose as a thought process on a salary study is simply because we have not met that in the past, and I don't want to look at something that our employees look at and then come and talk about the governing body does a study, and yet this salary of $57,000 is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm making 34. What are you gonna do about it? So that's my question on a salary study we implement. So I just want us to think about that, because financially, can we stand it? And do we understand what an employee deserves? And I say absolutely. The supervisors do, the county manager does. We are not Charlotte Mecklenburg. So we certainly ought to be able to look and see where someone stands within our counties that surround us and the job that they do. So that's where I stand.
Commissioner Jones?
I agree with Commissioner Freeman 100%. Thank you, Kim and Ms. Hendricks, for what y'all did in this budget before our new county manager got here a couple weeks ago. And a lot of exciting things in the budget. I was excited for Register of Deeds, for an allotment of funds for some help at some point. I know that's something that she has been wanting for some time, so I was glad to see that in this year's budget. So I've said all that I want to say tonight. Thank y'all for coming out and having a lot to say.
Commissioner Hoffler?
Well, I think all of us can tell that a lot of work and time have been put into this budget and getting the numbers, and very impressive document. You answered our questions very well. I was, excited that we have put some money aside for that unfunded liability that we have for our retirees, because we have made a commitment to fund retirees' health insurance. And so we start putting some money aside, instead of just having to pay all each year, build up so we can earn some interest and help with that. So, looking forward to listening to the discussions, but I really think y'all did a great job.
County Manager, have anything else to add before I ask for an adjournment?
Other than to thank this board and to thank the staff for putting together a very concise and well-put-together budget for me to work with.
Okay. I do have one announcement. There's a community health needs assessment that's in the county. We need to get that out as quickly as possible. The due date is June 18th. I was on a call this morning we need to have 350 responses. We don't have 100 and something. So there are some copies in the clerk's office. We're going to put the link on the website and pass some hard copies out of that survey to the citizen. It's a community health needs assessment that's being done in all the counties, and we are not where we need to be at this time. So I see Penny Royal, she has some copies, hard copies, if you want more copies to take to your churches or wherever you can get people to fill these out. Because the state is looking at community health needs, and so we need to be represented as a county. So I made that decision this morning to get it out, and we're going to put it on the website. As far as somebody want to pull it down themselves, click on the link and you can see it, do it and submit it, or you can get a hard copy and get that done. So please, 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 when you see that, get your neighbors and friends to fill this out so Gates County will meet their 350 that we're supposed to have, so we can be included in the outcome of that. Thank everyone for coming. Thank you to staff and for working on this budget, and the staff that are here. Thank you to the county manager, who's been here almost a month now. We will be having some meet and greets. You see something at your seat. It's a short form, and we're going to take input and put that on the website. So if any entity or civic organization wants to do a meet and greet, you just fill it out, and they'll work with the county manager, and you can meet and greet until your heart's content. But I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. That's why we're doing it this way, so that at the end of the day, the end of the year, and they say, well, we haven't seen the county manager, but did you fill out the form? So we're going to have a form, very short to the point, so he gets around and gets socialization within this county, and not just sit in his office and run around and work. He needs to get to know the people that we serve in Gates County, the citizens. So please do that as well. Thank you again. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.
Sean.
30 seconds.
Good evening.
It takes 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds before he brings it.